It was good. I want to say shalom. We continuing on in this Black History Month and giving some understanding about how our history relate to the Bible, and that this is a Black book, and that you can find your history in the scriptures. And so right now we're going through the Maccabees brothers, and getting some and understanding their rise, and how they save Israel during the times of the Greeks when the Greeks were in power. If you've been following along, we was reading how the Greeks, Alexander the Great, started to take over and robbing and stealing everything from everybody. So then we decided to fight back. So, but before we get started, let's give all praises to the Most High, and and we do so in the Son, Yahweh. So we're gonna get this started, and like I said, so we're gonna get into our history a little bit, because a lot of times we get they focus on the civil rights era so much that we don't understand that we have roots deeper than the civil rights era. We have roots that goes further than just the west coast of Africa. We have roots that goes back thousands and thousands of years. So and we gotta understand our culture and our people and our heritage and and our ancestors. And what they went through and the stuff that they did. And so yeah, we're gonna go to First Maccabees chapter 3. Start at the top. So it says, then his son Judas, called Maccabees, rose up instead, and his brethren helped him, and so did they all. I'm sorry, and so did all they that held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness. They fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So it's talking about the Maccabees brothers. So the first two chapters was dealing with how the Greeks came in and they started bomb rushing everything, taking over stuff like Nino Brown and the Carter. So then a few of our people decided to band together and fight against these Greeks. And eventually kind of hold them off a little bit, right? So now these Maccabees brothers, so we're getting into their story and how they rose up into prominence, right? So it says, and all his brethren helped him, and so did they that held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness in the battle. So like I said, they was glad to fight for their homeland. They was glad to fight for their people. They was glad to fight for their rights, and stand up against these Greeks that came in, right? And it says, in his acts he was a lion, and like a lion well roaring for his prey. So he was a mighty man. Judas the Maccabees was a mighty man. He was a mighty warrior. They said, described him like a lion, and, so then it says, and for he pursued the wicked and sought them out and burnt up those that vexed his people. So he was all about that get back, and going against these Greeks that were oppressing and destroying his people and destroying his land, right? So, so like I said, him and his army, they fought against that. And it says, therefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled because the salvation prospered in his hand. So like I said, so the Maccabees, those soldiers, the deadly assassins, the dagger squad, as they was called, they were, wreaking havoc, on these Greeks, to the point where they was, actually, had the Greeks in fear of them because they was, doing their thing. He grieved also many kings and made Jacob glad with his acts. So And like I said, so like a lot of these, kingdoms and stuff during that time, they was in fear of him because he was a mighty warrior and he had a mighty man behind him that was ready to fight and get down. So it says, and his memorial is blessed forever. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying all the ungodly out of them and turning away wrath from Israel. So, like I said, he was defending his country and trying to put things right, make things right, put everything back how it's supposed to be, before the Greeks came in and started doing their thing. So that he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth, and he received unto him such as were ready to perish. So he was renowned, meaning he was famous, you know what I'm saying? He had a reputation, his name ring bells. So it says he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth, and he received unto him such as were ready to perish. So like I said, he was, a mighty man. He was, what they'll call a worthy opponent. You know what I'm saying? So he got down for his people. And a lot of us is not willing to fight for our own people because we had that selfish attitude. But these guys came to see something was wrong. They came together and they fought for it, and they eventually won. Then it says, and then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together and a great host of Samaria to fight against Israel. So now this Greek generals putting together some people to fight against our people, right? It says, in which the thing when Judas perceived, he went forth to meet him, and so he smote him and slew him. Many also fell slain, but the rest fled. So Judas, what this Greek general was doing, and he basically ambushed them. He stopped them in their tracks, and he was able to defeat them. Right? Then it says, so this is our ancestors that we read about, Judas Maccabees, not Judas that you read about that betrayed Jesus or Yahushua with the kids. This happened like hundreds of years before. Because a lot of those names is like very common amongst our nation. So, so this is a mighty warrior we're reading about and how he fought for his people and brought people together to fight against these Greeks, So, therefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius a sword also, where and therewith he fought all his long life. So it says, therefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius sword also, therewith he fought all his life, long, right? So not only did he beat Apollonius in the army, he took his weapon, he took his gun, and that's like, almost like ultimate disrespect other than killing somebody with their own weapon. After he beat him, he took his sword from him. That's just like in the streets. You hear stories about somebody like, oh, such and such came at me with the gun and I beat him up and I took it from him. So that's the same thing that we're reading, but just in the ancient times. He took this man's sword from him. So then, where are we at? So then, Saran, a prince of the army of Syria, heard and say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude and company of the faithful to go out with him to war. He said, I will give me a name and honor in the kingdom. So this prince of Syria is looking at how Judas is rising up, and becoming famous. He's like, well, sure, you know how the story goes. Like, to beat a man, you got to beat the man, right? So he looking at Judas like, man, if I take down Judas, then I'm gonna be famous, and everybody, then everybody gonna look at me like I'm that nigga, right? Like, I'm cold. So he tried to put a plan together to go against our dear brother Judas, right? So then, and he said, I will get a name. He said, I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, for I will fight with Judas and them that are with him who despise the king's commandments. So he wanted to try to, get in good with Alexander and his cronies because, they was ruling the known world at that time. So he figured if he be the one to take Judas out, then he would get that respect, and then he'll be puffed up as a mighty warrior. He'd be famous or whatever, right? So then he says, so he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of ungodly to help him, and to be avenged of the children of Israel, right? So he put together his little army to go against the children of Israel, which will be us, our people. Judas Maccabee soldiers, right? And you notice, because we're reading the Bible here, right? And you notice every time they're being mentioned, they're being called ungodly. They're being called the wicked, So when we say that these people are the devil, it's not because, whatever reason. We're saying they're the devil because the Bible calls them the devil. The Bible calls them wicked, right? And the word devil just means deceiver. If you've been following along, we went through that, like, the biblical definition of being a devil, which just means deceiver. That's the root word of deceiver, Latin word for diablo. So it says, and when he came near to the going up of Beth Horon, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company. So Judas seen him coming, but he brought probably like a small number of people with him, but some of his mighty people, right, that he brought with him. So so said, who then saw the host coming to meet him, and said unto Judas, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great of a multitude and so strong, seeing we are already faint from fasting all this day? So they was on their fast and stuff, and so then they're trying to cleanse themselves. And so they were like, man, how are we going to be able to fight, man? We haven't really been, haven't ate anything, haven't had a chance to gather our strength, right? So let's see what Judas said to him. So it says, unto whom Judas answered, it is no harder matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few. And with the God of heaven, it is all one. So he's saying, like, look, it doesn't matter if we got a lot of dudes or little dudes. We got the God of heaven on our side. And that's how our people thought, back then. We thought about, like, how, we have a God that will fight for us. A lot of times we don't want to, face certain things, or we run for certain things, but we don't understand we have a God that's willing to, come out front and fight for us. He did. So, and Judas understood that, and he's telling his people, like, man, don't be scared because there's only a few of us and it's a lot of them. We got God on our side. So, so then it says, to deliver the great multitude or small company. For the victory of the battle standeth not in the multitude of the host, but the strength that comes from heaven. So he letting them know, like, it's not about the numbers when it comes to fighting. You know, it's all about whose side the Lord is on. And just so happened, us being the Israelites, the child of God, the Lord is on our side. That's what Judas was telling. So then they came against us in much pride and iniquity to destroy us and our wives and our children and to spoil us, meaning to come in and rob them and take things from them. But we fight for our lives and for our laws. So that's what we have to do. We have to fight for our lives and for our laws. And that's what they understood. So here you got these people that's willing to die for their culture, their heritage, their government, their laws, right? But then you go to church, and what laws are we talking about? We're talking about the commandments that God gave to us through Moses. But you go to church, and the church will tell you, oh, well, the commandments is done away with. We ain't got to follow these laws. But like I always say, you cannot read this Bible and go through one book of this Bible or a chapter without seeing that God is asking you to keep the commandments. But you go to church and sit up in church, and the church is telling you, don't keep the commandments. You don't have to follow God's laws. And then you wonder why our neighborhoods and everything is so messed up, right? So, and that's and that's what they teach. They teach you not to follow God's law. They teach you that you know better than God, basically. They're not coming out and saying, hey, you know better than God, but the gist of it, when it's all said and done after the programming, you're going to be talking like and acting like you know better than God that created everything. And that's the plan. So, and it says, but we fight for our lives and for our laws. So, like I said, we have men that will fight, that was ready to die for keeping these commandments, die for their people, die for their culture and their heritage. But nowadays, we just throw it away. We don't care. We love being called niggas and sticks and coons and stuff like that. We love being second-class citizens here in America rather than get back to our culture and our heritage. It said, therefore, the Lord Himself will throw them before our face, and as for you, be ye not afraid of them. Now, as soon as he left off speaking, he leaped suddenly upon them, and Saran and his hosts were overthrown before him. So, like I said, so he got his people pumped up, and then they went and attacked this Assyrian army, and they pursued them from the going down of the Bepharan unto the plain, where were slain about 800 men of them, and the residue fled into the land of the Philistines. So, like I said, they chased them off. They killed a lot of their people, and they chased them off. Then began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and exceeding great dread fell upon the nations around about them, and so much so as his fame came into the king, and all the nations taught the battles of Judas. So, like I said, so after he defeat this guy, then that's his name really started to come out and be he became known, like really known now. Like, man, this guy, there's no stopping this guy. He's like the Floyd Mayweather out here. He just undefeated, right? So then, now when King Antiochus heard of these things, he was full of indignation. Indignation thereof, he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. He opened also his treasures and gave his soldiers pay for the year. So he was hot. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, look, I'm gonna pay y'all for the whole year. This take this Judas Maccabees out of the equation, right? So then, where we at? Then they paid them for the whole year, commanding them to be ready whenever so he should need them. Like, look, y'all on call, you know, whenever it's about to go down, I'm gonna need y'all to be ready. So then it says, nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasures failed, and that the tributes in the country were small because of the dissension and plague which he had brought upon the land, and taken away the laws which have been at the time. Oh, so what that mean is the Lord, put it so where the people wasn't able to give, tribute to him like that, where, just like how during, like, for example, during the time of this COVID stuff, this C-19 thing, right? Um, a lot of businesses was closed. People couldn't go to work. A lot of, so it kind of slowed down the whole machine, right? So that's what was going on during this time. It was like plagues going on, and it wasn't a lot of money flowing. So once he realized he don't pay the soldiers off for the whole year, then he looking at the rest of their money. He like, man, I don't know. We got to win this because we ain't got too much money to keep try to fight this war. It costs money to fight wars, right? So he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before, for he had abundantly above the kings that were before him. So, he was like, man, like, I'm not gonna be able to just splurge and and give out gifts to people to try to win them over, like I was doing before. Like maybe I was doing too much stunting earlier. Maybe I was, just out here just splurging too much. So now he's thinking about that, right? So you see what happened. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to go to Persia, into Persia, there to take the tributes of the countries and to gather much money. So he's like, well, shoot, I'm going to Persia, modern day Iraq, Iran, right? He's like, I'm going to that and take and take what they got, right? So he left. So he left Elisus, a nobleman and one of the blood royals, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river of Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt. So he put one of his peoples in charge, right? While he go and steal the stuff from the modern day Iran, right? And to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again. Moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his forces and the elephants, and gave him charge of all the things that he would have done, as also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem. So he put him over all his affairs, right? To wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and take away their memorial from that place. So, like I said, he really wanted to take down the Maccabees brothers, and the deadly assassins. He really wanted to take them down. So he putting all his resources in it. He going for broke. You know what I'm saying? And that he should place strangers in their quarters and divide their land by lot. So the king took the half of the forces and remained and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year, and having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries. So now he's coming into Jerusalem, Israel, right? And from them he sent forth. I'm sorry. From there he sent 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and destroy it, as the king commanded, right? So he went forth with all their power and came into the pitch of Emachus in plain country, right? And the merchandise of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much, and the servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel. So, like I said, they came in. It was had our people, selling them as slaves, taking our people captive and all that, right? So it says, and the power of Syria and the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto him. So, like I said, he even got his allies and stuff to work with him. And now when Judas and his brethren saw that the misery were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in the borders, for they knew how the king had given commandments to destroy the people and utterly abolish them, they said to one another, let us restore the decayed fortune of our people, and let us fight for our people in sanctuary. So Judah's like, man, these people are in our land, they destroying stuff, they kidnapping our people. We got to fight, right? Then was the congregation gathered together. They mighty that they mighty be might I'm sorry that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. And Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness, and was none of her children that went out or in. Was none of her children that went in or out. And the sanctuary also was trodden down, and the aliens kept the stronghold, and the heathen had their habitation in that place, and the joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp was ceased. So, like I said, so they had the whole city in mourning. They had the whole country, in mourning, should I say? Because they was wreaking havoc, they was destroying things, kidnapping our people, selling them into slavery. So but they came in deep. They came into Jerusalem deep. So they started, wrecking shop. So then, because they was trying to destroy the Maccabees brothers, they was trying to take down the army. Trying to, push their dominance that they had, right? So, so it says, therefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mizpah over against Jerusalem, for in Mizpah was the place where they prayed before a time in Israel. So they came together and they prayed to the Most High, they prayed to God, and they fast that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes. But like I said, they end up fasting, and they pray, to try, for God to strengthen them, for they can be able to fight against this enemy, and that's what we got to do whenever we going through stuff. We got to go to God, to help for our help, because that's where our strength comes from God. A lot of times we try to depend on everything else, then we wonder why things fall to hell, because we didn't go to God first. We start trying to come up with our own devices and our own ways to do certain things, where all we have to do is go to God first, and God will, see you through whatever you're going through. So our ancestors knew that, they understood that, and that's why they were praying and fasting and trying to seek the counsel of the Most High, right? So it says, they laid open the book of the law, meaning these manuscripts, these scriptures, what we'll call today the Bible. It says they laid open the book of the law, where the heathen had sought to paint their images. So, and we know, because we living in the future now, we living after this. We know that after a while the heathens did paint their images. They did create what we call a white Jesus. They did make a movie called Ten Commandments, where everybody is white. Then, in all the other biblical movies that they made, where all the characters are white. We seen them do that. So even back then, they was trying to insert their images into our books, into our culture, and to pass themselves off as the people. or trying to erase our history, right? So it says, let's get a little precept with it. So then it says, so this is Job 9:24. It says, the earth is given unto the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. Meaning, he takes the judges, which are the Israelites, the people, and he covered their faces. How did he cover their faces? By making them white, by, taking away who they truly are and giving you a false image of who these people is. And the chief judge is Yahushua, who the world called Jesus. They give you a white Jesus whose real name is Cedric Bojer, right? From the Pope Pius VI. That was his son. That they paint the image of him. And so it says, the earth is given unto the hands of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So the Bible saying that the white man is not wicked for, trying to go open up our book and give us these false images, then who is wicked? Because he's the only one that's doing these things. I see a Chinese Jesus or Arab Jesus, but you see a white Jesus, right? It says, it's a wisdom of Solomon, right? So we're gonna get the account. Hold on, Salakia real quick. Yeah, Salakia, excuse me, right? So to get back to this, it's Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 14. We're gonna read down 21, right? So it says, for by vainglory of men they enter into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning. So now this is getting into Pope Pius. Now this is a prophecy from our dear brother King Solomon. So let's get into the prophecy of Pope Pius VI, who his son was dying, Cedric Bozer. So his son was, sick, caught a disease, because he was a disgusting human being. And it says, a father inflicted with an untimely mourning, when he have made a image of his child, soon taken away, now honored him as a god. So this is where we get that whole picture of Jesus from, because he had commissioned, Leonardo or Michelangelo, one of them people, to paint his son, portrait. And then this is the image that we see that been propagated for, forever, for the last 600, or so years, or more of this white Jesus, right? I mean, well, yeah, So it says, an image of his child soon taken away, now honor him as a god. So that's what happened when the Spanish and the Conquistadors and the Portuguese came over here. They had the image of white Jesus when they came over and took over stuff. When they used to beat us on the plantation and make us bow down to white, to the image of white Jesus, that's what they had in their hand. A picture of this man who actually lived on the earth, and his name was Cedric Bojer. They painted him to be the son of Christ. I mean, the son of God, right? So it says, for the father afflicted with untimely mourning, when he have made an image of the child soon taken away, now honored as a god, which was then a dead man, and delivered to those that were under him ceremonies and sacrifice. So he made people sacrifice to this man. And a lot of our people still sacrificing when they sit into these churches and they got those images of white Jesus are everywhere. And so it says, thus in process of time, the ungodly custom grew strong, was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of the king. So that's what happened during the Renaissance era and during the time of our stay here in America. They've been pushing this white Jesus on us. They go around the whole world pushing this white Jesus on us. They've been made a commandment to follow this man. To the point where when you close your eyes at night and pray, a lot of our people have this image of this, hippie-looking white Jesus, in their head when they pray, right? It says, whom man could not honor in presence because they dwelt far off. They took the counterfeit of his vintage from afar. So that's what they did when they got on them ships and start conquering the known world. They show up to whatever land they at with this picture of white Jesus, which was really Caesar Borgia, and they forced people to worship that image. So it says, a counterfeit of his vintage from far, and made a express image of a king whom they honored, and to the end that by this their forwardness they might flatter him that was absent as if he were present. So like I said, they made this image and made the whole world follow him, right? So then also the singular diligence of the artiverse did help set forth the arrogant into more superstition. But like I said, a lot of our people become superstitious of that image because they believe that's really the Messiah, that's really the Christ. You can't tell our people that Jesus is black. They'll say, oh, Jesus is, they'll say, you're telling that Jesus is black, Yahushua is black. Then once you break it down to them, they're like, well, it don't matter what he look like. But all they like, they've been saying a white Jesus, and they ain't never said, oh, it don't matter what he look like, because they've been comfortable with that white Jesus. So it says, for he peradventure willing to please one in authority, force all his skill to make a resemblance of the best fashion, and also, talking about the artist who made the painting, of his best fashion, and so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now for a god. And that's what our people do. We think this man is the son of God, when he was painted by Leonardo, and then all these other images come from other painters and, and sculptures and people that make sculptures and stuff, right? And it says, took him for a god, which a little before, but honored, and this was a occasion to deceive the world. So what happened when they created the image of Jesus Christ? It says, to deceive the world. So what happened when you go into the church, you see them white Jesus pictures everywhere laying on the cross? To deceive the world. For men serving either calamity or tyranny did ascribe unto stones and stock the incommunicable name. So that's what happened to our people. We fell victim to this image of Jesus. And our dear brother King Solomon wrote about this thousands of years ago, before this stuff even came to fruition, right? So now back to Maccabees 1 and chapter 3 and 49. They brought also the priest's garments in and first fruit and tithes to the Nazarites. They stir up, uh, they stir up who had accomplished in their days. Then cried they with a loud voice towards heaven, saying that we should do with these, and whether shall we, what shall we do with these, and whether shall we carry them away, right? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned, and the priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathens are assembled together against us to destroy us, that to destroy us with things they imagine against us. Thou knowest, how shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O God, be our help? So they knew that our strength comes from the Lord. And they're like, how can we stand against these people unless God be our help? Because like I said, Alexander was mighty at that time. He had a big army. And they even forced other countries to fight for him. Like we saw earlier in the chapter where Syria came to try to come against us, right? So it says, then the sound, when sounded they with trumpets and cried with a loud voice. After this, Judas obtained captains over the people, even captains over thousands, and over hundreds, and over fifties, and over tens. So he put captains and officers and stuff in place, right? To help with this army thing. But as much as were building houses and had betrothed wives and were willing to plant vineyards or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return every man to his house according to the law. So, all right, I'm not, I'm only calling the men that's ready to fight. Y'all civilians living your civilian life. Y'all can go back to your families and, continue on. But the warriors, I need y'all to come up front because we got to battle. We got to fight these people, right? So the camp removed and pitched upon the south of Emmaus, and Judas said, "Hey, arm yourselves, and be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against in the morning." Right. So like, man, get your stuff together, get your gear together, your weapons, all that stuff, and be ready in the morning, right? It says that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary. So he's like, man, we got to fight against these people that's coming against us, right? And that's the thing. We lack warriors nowadays. Our people don't want to fight against, this tyranny that we face. We just go along to get along. But here we see our ancestors was ready to throw down with the Greeks, and we know the Greece was a mighty kingdom because we learned about them in school. Alexander the Great and his people, right? So, but our people fought against them, and they won. Then it says, boom, boom, boom. For it is better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamity of our people in our sanctuary. So they knew death was better than being a slave to these people, or being paying tribute to these people and letting these people rule over them. They understood that, and it says, nevertheless, as the will of Yahweh, is in heaven, so let him do. Right? So then they came together. They're like, look, we're gonna fight. We got God on our side, and we're gonna do what we can, we're gonna fight against these people, but we're not going. We had the attitude of, that we're gonna persevere. We're not gonna let these people come into our country and start running stuff and just taking over stuff, we're gonna fight back. And that's what they did. So we're done with this chapter 3. We can get into chapter 4, next time. But so just doing a little recap. So it's like that's how our people got down. They was warriors, and they had that warrior spirit, and they didn't let the fact that they was probably few in number and they was going against these big old armies. They didn't let that affect them because they knew where our power came from, which is the Most High God, and they fought, and they continue to fight, you know. Not to spoil the whole story, but what eventually took us down was that we teamed up with the Romans, and the Romans, helped us, subdue the Greeks. But then the Romans backstabbed us because we all know the Greeks and the Romans, they're technically the same people. They just one called themselves Romans and the other called themselves Greeks. So, and you know what I mean by the same people, so yeah, but during this, fashion of time, we was able to fight these people off. So, like I said, we're gonna get back into the story. So we'll end it right there. But like I said, so you understand, like our, the warrior mentality of our people, and we didn't have like, that non-violent spirit on us, when they was oppressing us. We had that spirit of just fight, just get down. Just protect our people, just protect our women, just protect our children, just protect our family. Because these people is coming in and they're trying to change things, and they're trying to disrupt our way of life. So we understood how important that was. So I hope y'all got a little understanding, about these Maccabees brothers and how they got down. And we're not done with the whole saga, so we're gonna get back into it. But until next time, so shalom, peace, and I'm out.